Hi everyone and welcome to a new Lost Ark video. I'm Koshido and today we are going to talk about PvP, class overview and tier list. First of all, a little disclaimer, tier lists in this game doesn't matter. Every class is S tier on their specific role and eventually a good player with a low tier class will always beat a bad player with a high tier class. I will be sharing this sheet with you guys, link in the description. Keep in mind, all the information you will find in the sheet and in this video is information I gathered around the internet before the Lost Ark global launch, and all the information has been reinterpreted by me with my own personal opinion. I've played a lot of Lost Ark in the Korean server and in the Russian server. I've been focusing more on PvP than PvE before the global launch, so I'm not a master PvP player, but I'm also not new to the game. Let's look at the tier list and class overview. I will not be explaining in detail every class, because I could spend hours talking about each class. I want to keep this video short, so I will be giving you some quick overview, and eventually if you want to go in depth on a specific class, you can look for other specific video. I will be making video builds for PvP classes, and I will be sharing with you links for other content creators that makes very good guides. Let's start with the Assassin's class. Here we have Deathblade, S tier, A plus tier. He is a DPS engager slash support. Super high mobility, lots of super armor during engage, good engaging but also good offense, that means good DPS. Even after the Korean nerfs happened some times ago, is a good counter for melee. So is a good engager because every engaging moves has super armor. So that means you are able to engage in almost any situation, and you can chain your engage with some knockups, some stuns, which will provide a lot of utility for classes like Sorcerer, Artillerist, which can do a lot of damage. Also is very good support in the team because he enables a lot of classes to do a lot of damage and is very good helping with the peeling. Next one is the Reaper. This isn't out for us yet, it will be out hopefully very soon. This list is based on the Russian server. He is an assassin in C tier. He's a DPS engager. He's in a C tier because it has low damage but great mobility. He's very squishy. He has good peel but is very predictable in high rank. He also has longer CDs. Is S tier in 1v1 and is in C tier in solo queue matching. I won't spend too much time talking about the Reaper since he isn't out for us yet. Just keep in mind a recent balance patch from the Korean server buffed the Reaper a lot and made it very viable for PvP. Next one, Demonic, which is Shadowblade for us. A tier. He is good at nuking and poking. It has great mobility, very quick engages, has a lot of range pokes and peels and CCs. It has almost no super armor, and it does a huge DPS in form, which is the identity skill when he transforms into a demon. You are playing it hit and run style, has not much team synergy, and the field of view is a big thing, both for offense and defense. So since you don't have super armor, you don't want to get catched, and you don't want to engage inside an AoE or a knockup or something like that. This means you have to be very aware of your enemy's position and your allies' position. And that's why the field of view is a big thing, because when you have a good visibility of the battlefield, you can make a quick decision to when to jump in, unleash your nukes, your damage, and then go out again. And basically, this is your play style. Next one, let's start talking about the gunners. We have Blaster, which is an artillerist for us. He is a B tier. He's a defensive DPS slash nuker. He can't frontline. He has a good mobility, but is a slow class. He's very good against new players. He's easy to learn, and he only has one long combo with a slow setup, but that combo does a lot of damage. Maybe is one of the most damaging combos of the game, but it needs someone to peel enemies. He's very strong against melee. Defensive DPS means that you are playing in a defensive style, so you don't want to engage every 2 seconds, you don't want to spam skills, you just want to stay safe and wait for the good moment to unleash your nukes. And that's why if you have someone who helps you with the peeling to create occasions for you to unleash your damage, you will be top DPS almost every time. This is very good against new players because usually new players don't really know the damage you can do, so they tend to hit the nearest character they find, and usually you are able to play without even getting touched. Next one we have Deadeye, and I'm gonna pair it with the Gunslingers because he's male female of the same class. They are both in A tier and they are both DPS engager. The Deadeye has great mobility, lot of stagger, hard CCs, he has a good engagement. It has 1 melee knockup with super armor that the Gunslingers doesn't have, and that makes him very strong against melees compared to the Gunslinger. On the other hand, the Gunslinger is the same as the Deadeye, maybe it has a better ultimate, maybe is a little bit more safer due to slightly better ranged skills, and is stronger versus ranged compared to the Deadeye. So when I'm saying they are DPS engager, don't get me wrong, they can unleash a huge amount of DPS. Every class can deal a lot of damage. The DPS engager have a skill set that allows them to go quickly or safely in, do some engages, some knockups, some stun, unleash some damage, and then move out. And DPS engagers like the Gunslinger, the Deadeye, are very good to enable other member of your team, like the Artillerist we just saw, to do real serious damage. Next one is Scouter. He isn't out yet for us. Hopefully it will be very soon. He's in S tier. He's a defensive DPS. Basically, he plays with a drone and you are using your skills through the drone. So you are very far away from the battlefield. And that's why you are a defensive DPS. You play very far away. He has great mobility, great hard CCs, easy to land, is very hard to catch because of the distance, and is very difficult to play because you are actually playing with a pet and you have to micro the pet around the map. He's very strong against the top tier classes. Next one is Hokai. He is in B/C tier and he is a DPS engager. It has many lock-ins, is very predictable, his stealth is bad, is not really that good, has good peeling, damage is luck based because of the crit, it has okay mobility and decent super armor. For solo queue climbing is in A tier. So this stealth is very predictable for top tier players, but he is in A tier in solo queue because new players usually can't really predict where you will be going, what you will be doing while in stealth. So it will be is very fun to play versus new players. But when you're reaching the top tier, when you're doing 3v3 in high rank, you will be very predictable with the Okai, and that's really the problem. Also, since the damage is luck based, like we will see similar to the Arcana, it doesn't really have consistent damage. So sometimes you are destroying someone and sometimes you don't really do the damage you were expecting to do. Next, let's move on with the mages. Arcana, B tier. She is a DPS nuker. She relies on combos, needs a pre-made, relies on luck. It has low defense, need heals like the blaster. So I won't be spending too much talking about the Arcana, but just to let you know, she's a mage that uses cards to deal damage, and depending on the card you are picking, you can either increase your damage or get other buffs. So it relies really on luck too much to be competitive on PvP. So that's why she's in a B tier. It's very fun to play though. Lin O, which is an amazing PvP player, made the Arcana for many months in the Russian server, and he managed to reach very high tiers in PvP. And this is a demonstration that tier list doesn't really matter. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for his channel. Next one, we have the Bard. She's an S tier and she's a support. He's a must-have on 3v3. He's one of the best support. There are only two. They're both very good support. It has heals, shield, CC immunity, but is very squishy. There is nothing much else to say about the supports in general. They are very good. If you played a little bit of Lost Ark, you already know how good they are. And when you're playing in high tier matches, support is pretty much mandatory, so you can go either Bard or Holy Knight. With that being said, you can also do composition without a support in your team, but it's usually something to do in a pre-made 3v3. When you do solo queue, if you have a support in your team, your chances to win are very high. Next one, we have Sorceress, A tier DPS engager. When I started writing down this document, the Sorceress was about to come out in the Russia, so that's why in the notes there's written KR only right now. Just please ignore the notes. I will be updating these, so when you look at the link, should be up to date. I've been playing a lot of the sorcerers lately, and I played a lot on the Russian server. I can tell you she is very squishy. She has a low self-peel, so she relies on teammates to do the peeling. She has a very long range and she's good at catches. So with the long range you can catch people very far away and then you can follow up with the damage. You are not doing nuke damage. You aren't like the artillerist when he does a combo he almost nukes someone. You are doing more consistent high damage and you're able to. Your casts are very long, so that's why you will need teammates to help you with the peeling to be able to cast your spells. I will be making a PvP video guide for the sorcerers very soon in case you are interested. Next one, let's talk about the summoner. She isn't out for us yet, hopefully it will be very soon. She's in A tier, but is in S tier for the solo queue. She's a DPS, I'd say half nuker maybe. She is very easy for climbing. She isn't that good for high rating. She has low mobility, she's very squishy, and she needs a pre-made for 3v3 because she needs a lot of peeling. And since she's squishy, she needs peeling, she's very vulnerable to classes that rush you. Similar to the sorcerers actually. But if ignored, the summoner is one of the highest DPS class for 3v3. Next, we have Lance Master, which is a fighter and is a class that still has to come out for us yet. She is in S tier and she is a DPS all-rounder. That means she is good in almost everything. She has good engages, she has good damage, she has good healing, she has great mobility and low CDs. Very easy to catch enemies and combo out of it. She counters many other S tier classes. Next one in fighter, which is Scrapper for us. She's in C tier and she's a DPS. She has good mobility, a super short cooldown for the spacebar. She has low damage and she is easily interruptible. The problem with this class right now is that you, in the tripod, your skills, you either have to pick super armor to avoid being interrupted while you're doing DPS, or the damage that makes your skills do a lot of damage. And that's really the problem with the Infarter. In the recent KR balance patch for the PvP, I saw she got a buff, so maybe she will be more playable in the future. Next one, we have Soulfist, fighter, B tier. She's a DPS nuker. She's an all-arounder, one of the best nuker the game. The engage is predictable and without any immunity. So she needs teammates to do 3v3. She has very good mobility and very good range, but she's easy to interrupt and she's very good at backing teammates. A tier in solo queue. So during the global beta test, the only thing I did is level up a Soulfist and do PvP, and it was really fun because of the playstyle. Basically, you are a nuker because on how your identity works. When you have a level 3 buffs, everything you do is basically a nuke. You can bring someone from 100% to 0 very quickly. And other people know this as well. So they will do their best to stop you. And if they manage to stop you during the buff, your average damage for the match will be super low, and that's why he's not higher on the tier list. But again, against new player or for climbing is very fun. I totally recommend to try it out. Let's move on with the Striker and Battle Master. They are male-female of the same class. So the Striker is BC tier. He is a DPS. He's similar to the Battle Master. He has a lot of mobility, but he has low damage, low immunity, and he is easily interruptible. That's why is low on the tier list. Compared to the Battle Master in mid-low tier for solo queue is slightly better. The Battle Master is similar to the Striker, but she has a team buff which is pretty strong, and that's why she's B tier, meanwhile the Striker is midway between B and C tier. The problem with the Battle Master is the same as the Striker, and also she has more mana issues. So I used to play the Battle Master in the Korean server, but it was before the nerfs of the super armor, so I can't really talk that much about the Battle Master right now. The problem is that one without super armor, all your abilities are very vulnerable to other CCs, so you have to be very aware of the enemy position, enemy CDs. Is very difficult to play it very well. The Battle Master and the Striker as well, they are very similar, so that's why they are super low. I saw they received a buff in the Korean balance patch, so in the future they will be more playable in PvP. Next one, let's talk about the Warriors. Berserker, B tier. He is a DPS counter engager. He has really long CDs, low mobility, he is very good in team, he has great CC and buff, very big AoE, very good damage, a lot of super armor. He is a little bit predictable in high rate teams, and the long CD usually is a big problem. He is not an engager, and if his CDs were a little bit shorter, he could have been easily an S tier class. The deal with the Berserker is that he has a big armor and you usually play it very aggressively. In real, you have to play it as a counter engager, so that means when the enemy team engages you, this is where you shine. When they engage your team, you jump in and you can just destroy everything. The longer CDs makes your playstyle like you go in, you unleash your CDs, and then you have to go back and wait for the CDs again. And that's why he is predictable in high rating and he needs a team to play very well. Next one, we have the Destroyer, which isn't out for us yet. He is an S tier and he is a defensive DPS engager. This time defensive means that he has a lot of defense, a lot of super armor, he has a shield mechanic which is very broken, he has great damage potential, and he's a very good healer. It works better in team, is a B tier when solo queue because you can create a lot of occasion for your team, but if the team can catch up those occasions, you alone can't really carry the match. He is very weak against ranged and high mobility classes. Next one, Warlord, which is Gunlancer for us, is A tier and he is a DPS support. He has a short spacebar, he's a good engager, he has a good shield buffs, he's very hard to catch, he's kinda weak in 1v1 situation, but it provides a huge amount of utility for the game. He's weak against ranged classes. The Warlord is a DPS and support because he doesn't do as much DPS as a pure DPS, but he has a combo which deals huge amount of damage that can really help to turn the tides of the match. Also, he's not a full support because he has less buffs for the team, less shields for the team. He provides more CC's utility in that way. This is a good example of a class that can enable something like the Artillerist or the Sorceress to deal huge amount of damage. Last one, we have the Holy Knight, which is the Paladin for us. He is an S tier, he is a support engager. He's similar to the Bard, but maybe for someone he's slightly better. I think they are very similar, but the Bard is harder to play, maybe that's why the Holy Knight is considered slightly better. He has damage reduction skills, lot of knockdowns. He doesn't have that many super armor, but he has a very strong identity. He can front lane and deal good damage, almost similar to a DPS, I'd say, but don't play it as a DPS in arena, please. He has more build variety compared to the Bard. The Bard he has only one real build you can play. Meanwhile, the Holy Knight has many skills that you can change eventually based on your playstyle. Okay, before talking a little bit about the counters, how to counter each class, I want to spend a few words about the Kanon's video about the tier list. He's a great, amazing Lost Art content creator, and he was the first one to do interviews with Russian and Korea Grandmaster to make a tier list to help us decide which class we should use. Most of the information around the PvP meta we have are thanks to this kind of video, so I'm gonna leave his channel in the description. Feel free to jump in and say thanks. So the first tier list should be from an interview he did with two Russian grandmasters, and it should be very similar to mine. The second tier list comes from an interview he did with a Korean grandmaster after the balance patch happened in the Korean server. So this may be a good snapshot of the upcoming meta that we'll be receiving after the same balance patch somewhere in the future. Okay, now let's talk about counters, a few tips on how to counter each class in PvP. Since this is a skill-based game, I can't really tell you step by step how to counter someone. You just need to get a good knowledge about the game, about the classes, and you need to learn how to read your opponent. Berserker, peel off the team to stop his rotation, punish when they have skills in CD. So his counter engages. When you see him coming in, you have to peel him off the team to avoid his rotation. If you manage to waste his rotation on a 1v1 scenario or by interrupting them, his GD are super long, so you have a window of time where you can really do damage to him. Next one, Warlord. Interrupt his big burst and he has no damage. So the Warlords can deal a lot of damage, but he has a super big burst combo. If you interrupt that, you are fine, and you have to punish him when his identity is down. Otherwise, you have to ignore it and try to avoid his CCs. Destroyer, which isn't out for us, but play defensively when Endure Pain, which is this mega shield, peel away from the team, punish him after the Endure Pain, and try to bait his stance. The Holy Knight, you can't really do that much. You have to stop him when his identity is on and just punish him. Battle Master, you have to counter engage the Battle Master since he has no super armor. He can't really do that much. And punish when they overcommit or if they engage without his team coming, just because of these super armor problems. And avoid 1v1s versus the Battle Master. Striker is similar, same as the Battle Master. In Fighter, CC during big hitters because they are slow, and we talked about it earlier. She either puts damage or super armor in his abilities, so that's how you counter. Avoid 1v1, he's very strong in that kind of scenario, and peel away from the team. Next, we have a Soul Master. You have to punish him when stage 0. So I talked about it earlier. He has 3 level. When he is in level 3, he has a lot of damage. He is a nuker. So you have to CC him when he's stage 3 to stop his super damage. Otherwise, avoid completely because he can almost one-hit you. When he finished the stage 3, he has a stage 0 phase where he can only do base abilities, I mean auto attacks and stuff like that. So in that case, you have to punish him because he can't really do anything. Then we have the Lance Master, which isn't out yet for us. She relies on 2 particular skills to do damage. If you interrupt them, you will lower the damage. Try to avoid 1v1 and punish when she overcommit. Next, Gunslinger, same as before, punish when overcommit. Overcommitment always is something you have to punish. DPS engagers, especially new players, will always overcommit or always go in without being sure the team is following them. So you have to punish them in that case. Is not very good at peeling. Be aware of the rotation of the identity. Also, she is not very good at peeling, so just don't get baited from the Gunslinger. The Deadeye is the same as above, but you have to remember he has a super armor on the melee combo. Next one, Blaster. Punish after shield is down. Track CDs because sometimes he has to roll in a melee range to do this his super combo. So if he doesn't have the roll to escape because he used it for the combo, you can punish him. He can't really go away. When he does the Gatling, he's staggering you. You can avoid that stagger by using basic attacks, and just don't overcommit because he's very good at punishing. Kill him and punish his engages. Hawkeye, interrupt his important skills, avoid Disclaimer and his CCs, and be aware of his peeling. Again, you will learn very quickly how to play against Hawkeye. If you manage to avoid this skill as mentioned, you should be fine. Scouter, he has low super armor, he's very weak to rushes. His only defense mechanic is the mobility, the high mobility, so it's very easy to separate him from the team and fight him alone. In 1v1 scenario, he is very weak, especially if the drone is away from him. When he does the identity, you just need to focus him. Next one, Summoner, which isn't out for us yet. He needs to be babysit so to do damage, so you have to rush her down. She has only one mobility, which is the space, only 1 or 2 super armor depending on the build. So if you don't let her cast, you are fine. Be aware for the Phoenix. Destroyer, Berserker, and Demonic are very good against the Summoner. Next one we have Bard. Bard focus when her buff skills are down, and otherwise you have to bait and waste their buff, their immunities. There isn't much else you can do. Next one, Sorcerer. She is very weak to rush. You can separate her easily from the team, and when you do 1v1 scenario against the Sorcerer, she is very, very weak. She is similar to the Scouter from this point of view. Arcana, punish when melee during DPS combo. To do her combo, she has to go melee, so you have to punish her when she goes in. Otherwise, rush her when she's at range. Blade, punish during the combo after the engage. So her engage has the super armor. After the engage, she has damaging skills that doesn't have super armor. So that is the time you have to punish her. And also forced to be aggressive, because when she has the engage in cooldown, she can't really get away that easily. And that is the time you have to punish her. Demonic, no super armor, so you have to predict her engages and catch her. Big AoE can catch her. Punish her after hit and run, so when she goes in, hit and then run away. When she run away, you can punish her. Be aware of her form and focus when she is in form. The form is her most damaging skills, so you need to stop her. Last one, Reaper, which isn't out for us yet. He is super squishy. You have to peel when she's comboing. You have to read the engages and burst them down. Don't chase. And that's it for the video. Basically, this document, I made it for myself at first. I shared it with my guild because they were interested, and I figured out maybe you can be interested in stuff like that as well. In Lost Ark, especially in PvP, knowledge is power. To be a good player, you have to know how to fight and cooperate with each class. And that's why I will be making PvP specific video guides for each class. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want more content like this, and thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.